We've heard a lot about Poland and its beautiful, sometimes untouched landscapes. But we'd never been to this area before. And so, in June 2025, we set off in our motorhome to explore the north and northeast of Poland. Yesterday, we were still in Giłów in the center of Masuria. But the cold and wet weather drove us on. The first stop today is not far from our starting point and is located north of Giłów on Lake Kissain. A very narrow and bumpy avenue leads us past a small octagonal chapel in the town of Pozezdrze. The interior of the church, however, doesn't convey this octagonal impression. We continue through an extensive forest area. We drive through small villages. Everywhere we see stork nests on poles, some of which are already occupied by young birds. Then we come back to Lake Kissain, which flows into Lake Maurersee here. We continue over a bridge to the Lehndorff estate, which is actually called Steinort. The family of resistance fighter Heinrich Graf von Lehndorff Steinort lived here. A memorial plaque commemorates his execution after the failed assassination attempt on Hitler in 1944. The estate has fallen into disrepair over the past decades. Reconstruction is being financed with grants. Parts of the complex have already been converted into a conference hotel. We continue driving, vast grain fields to the right and left, but nowhere to be seen is a farm. Then another charming octagonal round church, of which there are many here. We pass Hitler's headquarters, the Wolf's Lair, without visiting it and reach the holy Linden Monastery. It is one of the most famous Polish Marian pilgrimage sites and is popular with pilgrims and tourists alike. This Baroque pilgrimage church, Holy Linden, was built by Jesuits in this village that was part of East Prussia until 1945. The interior of the church is richly decorated, including a painting on the ceiling. The tabernacle of the main altar is made of silver. The lower image, from 1640, depicts the Virgin Mary. 8 other altars adorn the church. A copy of the carved statue of Our Lady, made in 1652, is displayed inside, along with a symbolic linden trunk. The organ was built in 1751 and has 40 stops. The facade contains numerous movable figures depicting an Annunciation scene. Today, it was comparatively quiet here. We wonder what it looks like during pilgrimage season, when hundreds of pilgrims come here. And then we continue on to the neighboring town of Rößel. The Gothic castle complex with its adjoining Protestant church, built according to plans by Carl Friedrich Schinkel, is overwhelming. We don't visit the castle, but instead take a walking tour of the town. This neoclassical building, however, could have been designed by Schinkel. Next to it, the Greek Catholic Church isn't even noticeable. The fountain from 1716 stands next to the remarkable town hall with its hipped roof and onion dome from the 19th century. On the street leading to the main church is a pastry shop, where I first have to buy a delicious 200-gram cake. The price of the cake is being weighed. At the southern edge of the old town stands this, for such a small town, mighty three-aisled hall church from the 14th century, which only reopened in 1817 after a fire and renovation. The church's interior is still decorated with Whitsun celebrations. The style of the church furnishings, such as the pulpit, the altar with its columns, and the playful baptismal font, reminds me more of a Rococo church in Bavaria. The baptismal font stands like a small pavilion with a chiseled roof on the southern edge of the church. The east side of the outer church wall has remarkable Gothic decoration. We're on the road for another hour to our final destination today, the town of Heilsberg, 45 kilometers away. And once again, we encounter a mighty castle. Heilsberg Castle, built in the 14th century by the Wormian bishops, is considered the best preserved fortification from the Teutonic Knights period. The castle complex was restored in the second half of the 19th century by Ferdinand von Quast and Karl Hauke. The outer bailey includes, among other things, the Baroque palace of Prince Bishop Adam Stanislaus Grabowski, built in the mid-18th century. We continue into the old town. There we find several historic streets, including a row of characteristic arcaded houses on the market square. From afar, we can see a huge brick building. Remains of the medieval city wall are connected here to the late Gothic so-called High Gate, the only surviving city gate of Lidzbark-Worminski. From the High Gate, we return to the lowlands of the Alle River. From the bridge, we have a beautiful view of the late Gothic collegiate church of the Holy Apostles Peter and Paul, dating from the 14th century, illuminated by the evening sun. Due to time constraints, we won't visit the church. Not far away, we see the Bishop's Summer Palace, the so-called Orangery, located in the Orangery Park, a Baroque classical garden pavilion from the early 18th century, which is designated as a free parking space. A brief summary: today, we explored the more obscure sites, away from the lakes and forests, and were amazed by the mighty buildings of the late Middle Ages. Tomorrow, we'll continue on towards the coast via the boat lift of the Oberland Canal.